it makes me feel, well, we did do something good. We made something that was worthwhile. So, even though the split was sort of acrimonious and not very nice, we did do something good. So, yeah, I'm happy about that.
Hey everyone, Mark Millar here, and this is the XS Noize Podcast. If it's your first episode, you're very welcome, and if you're back again, it's great to have you with me. Last episode, I was chatting with Alki, the Dublin indie rocker with that cracking debut album, Rinse and Repeat. So check it out. And this episode, we're into something a bit special. My guest is Roland Gift, the iconic voice of Fine Young Cannibals. One of the most unmistakable voices in British music. You hear it once and you know exactly who it is. We chat about FYC 40, the new compilation celebrating 40 years of Fine Young Cannibals, and Roland's brand new Christmas single. We look back at the early days too, the stories behind those massive songs and the creative road he's been on ever since. He's honest, funny and full of brilliant stories. A really lovely conversation. So yeah, grab a cuppa, relax and enjoy this one. Roland Gift, FYC 40, right here on the XS Noize Podcast. Enjoy. Let's go. So hi Roland, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
FYC 40 is about to be released. It marks 40 years of Fine Young Cannibals. When you look at that number, 4 decades, what goes through your mind first?
It makes me feel old. It amazes me because we we weren't producing that much over that period at all. But one thing that we wanted to do when we started was, because we were listening to a lot of American soul music that was probably 25 years old, and we wanted to make a record that did that people would be listening to 25 years after we'd done it. So I think, when I see that FYC 40, I think, well, we did that because it's still interesting to people even today.
Going back, you came to prominence in 1985 with Johnny Come Home, such a striking debut. What do you remember about that first rush of success when Fine Young Cannibals suddenly broke through?
I mean, that song changed my life. That song really changed my life. I can remember, for instance, there were sort of stages. It's like, I remember when we first heard ourselves get played on John Peel, for instance, and that might have even been before the record was released. And then the next thing was recording the video version of Johnny. That was the people from the Tube. Jeff Wanfer was the director. And they came to a studio called Zeller in Birmingham, which was an old recording studio where they used to do the Archers, apparently, the Radio 4 soap. So that was kind of, that day, I just remember, I don't remember so much the rest of the day, but I just remember them. It was like, we did it in the morning, they came in, they set up, they shot, they left, and it was all within 2 hours. And it was a bit like, oh, did that really happen? Did that, that thing, did it just really happen? When that was shown on the TV, it was just like, bang, it was, people really, really, really responded to it. We didn't know really what we had. We didn't know, we knew what we had, but we didn't know what the effect would be for other people, or even how it would affect us, really. So it's kind of like you just kind of get on the ride, and you go with it and see where it takes you.
I remember seeing that performance on the Tube back in the day. The Tube then, was such a huge platform for new bands, and it was a big introduction for the Fine Young Cannibals to the wider world.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, it was it was one of those shows, wasn't it, where everybody, when they would meet up on a Friday going out, everybody talking about what they saw on the tube earlier.
Yeah, we're talking about how you wanted the songs to last. The songs still sound so alive today. Even the younger fans who are discovering the songs through film and TV. What is it about those records you think that keeps them resonating for so long?
I think they're probably genuine. It deals with real emotions, and I think people respond to that. People connect to that. Yeah, it's a difference between when somebody's talking to you and they're not really believing what they're saying. They're just spinning you a line, and how you connect with that kind of person. Then how you connect with somebody who's actually being genuine with you. And I think that we always aim for authenticity. We wanted it to be real, and for me, still to this day, I want things to be authentic. In every aspect of life, I want things to be. I don't mind if somebody is, somebody hates my guts. I'd rather them say, "Oh, I hate your guts," than somebody who says, "Yeah, I'm your friend," and they're not. And I can live with people who hate my guts. It's harder to live with people who say, "Oh, I'm your friend," when they're not. They're kind of dangerous.
And also, I think there was a lot of timelessness that came from the way you sang. There was a lot of emotional honesty, the cut through trends, and the production.
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, we weren't really interested in being trendy. We just wanted to be good, and because also, I've been playing those songs. I started doing gigs a lot, sort of I hadn't been doing anything for a while, and then I went on tour with Jules Holland as one of the guest singers. And then after that, I put a group together again. And I can still sing those songs and still enjoy singing them as well. So, they weren't kind of gimmicky in a way that, like, well, I can't do that now because that trend has gone. I can still... I still enjoy singing those songs.
Fine Young Cannibals were a tight trio, 3 very distinct energies. What was the real secret, do you think, to the chemistry of the band?
I think bands, they're like marriages, really. They really are like marriages, and I'm not sure. I mean, we had a sensibility. We had a similar sensibility. We liked the same kind of music. I think we all came out of punk as well. We were all involved in punk. And so we had that same kind of attitude of punk where you just kind of do it. You just go and do it. You don't wait to be a virtuoso. You just pick up your instrument, or you get on stage and you do your thing. So we all had that in common. And we had shared values. We had shared values, and I think that is like in a marriage. If you've got shared values, then there's more chance of you sticking together and making a go of it than if if one person wants one kind of lifestyle and the other wants a different one, unless it's like So I think it was the shared values that kind of kept us together. It's kind of like the little things. I think the thing that split us apart was we didn't really talk. So that probably didn't matter in the beginning, but later on we probably needed to communicate better. Just like in a lot of marriages, that's kind of the thing that kills it, is that people stop talking or take it for granted as well.
You never sounded like any band from the 80s. You were more like outsiders. You accidentally invented the future. And part of that, came from working with David Z on The Run, The Cooked. What do you remember most about working with him? What did he bring out that maybe no one else had before?
I think it's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, definitely he had... it's like the drum on She Drives Me Crazy was definitely his doing.
And he changed the title as well, didn't he? It was called She's My Baby initially.
Yeah, well, actually, it was he was quite happy with that title, And I was quite happy with it, but it was David who didn't think it was as good. David Z liked it because he thought it was sort of swung a bit more, but David Steele didn't. He thought "She Drives Me Crazy" was better. And then the record company, they said, "Oh, that's just a line from a Queen song. That's not very good." So all the stories, they kind of, they get sort of twisted over the years. But that's my memory of it. And I remember, I've read a few things recently where the record company were taking credit for that song, but my memory is they weren't that impressed by it at all. And the original idea, they didn't really think that much of it. But then that's all right, really, because there's kind of like a history of that. I remember reading recently with Phil Oakey, he didn't think "Don't You Want Me Baby" should be on the album. That's what's great about pop music, is nobody knows.
David had just come off working with Prince. Did you ever get to meet Prince yourself or hear what he thought of your sound?
No, never got anywhere. The nearest we got to him was his guitar was in the studio. So no, that was the nearest. I suppose if you were like a really kind of obsessive fan, you might have wanted to like lick the neck of the guitar or smell it or something, steal the strings, but didn't do any of that.
So how did it feel to dig through these tapes and memories while putting FYC40 together? Did it bring back the old spark, or were there ghosts in there too?
Do you want the honest answer?
Yeah.
I wasn't really that involved, in as much, they might have sent stuff and said, "How do you feel about this going on?" And there'd have been things that I'd have vetoed just because I didn't think that they were particularly representative or even worth listening to. But I'm never one. I was never a great fan of remixes unless I've thought of them myself. But although there have been some great remixes, like the "Everything But the Girl Missing" remix was fantastic, or "Brimful of Asher" Corner Shops remix that Fatboy Slim did. That was. But generally, I'm not a big fan of them. So I mean, we did it. I remember us doing an extended version of "Johnny Come Home." We did the 12-inch. Because what happened with that song is we'd done what they considered the demo, and then they wanted the record company, again, it's record companies thinking that they know better. They wanted us to re-record it with Ann Dudley from Art of Noise. So we did, and it just wasn't as good. So we ended up, even though the demo, which became the original song, and it sort of goes out of time in places and whatever, but that it was authentic. And so we did have a nice time actually doing the 12-inch. It was just kind of like, it was fun doing that. But generally, remixes, I'm not against them. I think for me, if I'm making the song, that's the story. I'm telling the story in the original song, and that's what I want to say. So that with the remix, it's different. It's somebody else's story, and that's okay. I wouldn't say you can't have that, but it doesn't tell my story. So for that reason, I'm out.
Roland, your voice is one of the most distinctive in British pop. It's soulful but never showy. So listening back to songs like "Johnny Come Home," "Blue," "Suspicious Minds," do you notice anything in your voice you'd forgotten?
Not so much on those songs, but on other songs, I think my voice is better now when I'm singing than when I did back then. Not with Johnny so much, not with "Blue" and not with "Suspicious Minds," but like they're songs that I've been doing over the years, so I've not been away from them really. So I've been close to the music for a long time. I mean, David and Andy haven't been doing the songs. It's me really that's sort of been keeping those songs alive, if you like. So there's not so many surprises with them because I've been working with them pretty consistently.
There's always been something cinematic in the way you deliver a song. Do you still approach singing like acting, like as if you're stepping into a character each time with a song?
I do, because they kind of, there does seem to be a narrative element to songs that I write. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite a visual person, actually. I see things probably more than I hear them. I see things, and I do imagine the story. I do imagine the whatever the song is. I do imagine the story. I mean, it's funny with making videos because it sort of concretizes the images, and I think videos can be really great. That's one of the things that they sort of take away often with a song is they give you the visual, whereas before videos, you would make, people would normally just make the video up. They'd make the visual up themselves, and so that's kind of what's good and bad about pop videos is that it sort of tells people kind of how to see it, but they kind of wear off as well. I think that the video image actually wears off after a while if the song is around long enough.
We must talk about your new single, Everybody Knows It's Christmas. Tell me about the spark for this one. Where did it begin?
The funny thing about this song is that it was quite a dark subject, and it started off being called Pop Suicide, and it was about it was just about how the industry kind of eats its young. Kids kind of, they come into it, they're getting in the limousine and they're riding around town and they think this is fantastic, and then later on the bill comes in, and it's like with videos, they'd cost thousands and thousands, and then actually the video ended up being paid for by the kids who'd made the record. So it started out like that, but it didn't really get that far, just as a writing project. And I was working with a guy called Ben Barson. We've written quite a lot of songs together, songs that I play live, and some haven't been recorded, some have. So so Ben and I met through a publisher. Actually, it was EMI. We were both being published by EMI, and that's how we got put together. You might have an idea and it goes nowhere, but it's never kind of lost. It's sort of, if it's not on tape or on the computer, it's lodged somewhere in your psyche. What I like about songs is I never go looking for them. They kind of arrive. That's kind of what happened with that song. Everybody Knows It's Christmas. It just arrived one day. Yeah, we just and it was kicking around for quite a while. I did lend a demo of it to somebody, and they did something for some charity in America, but it never really did anything. It wasn't a really good version anyway, and that was years and years ago. And then I did play it live. I did a tour in 2017. We did this sort of like a Christmas tour, and I did play it live then. And then I didn't really do anything. And then things just sort of seemed to fall into place. It's like it was the 40th anniversary. The record company really seemed to be wanting to do something kind of like special and serious with it. And then Dua Lipa did the advert. Dua Lipa and Jenny from the K-pop star Jenny, they did the version where they're lip syncing to our version of She Drives Me Crazy. And that sort of created a lot of interest. Just because of when they were bringing this record out this time of year, I thought, well, let's see if we can do it so it sounds really good. And I think it does sound really good. And so that's kind of, it was kind of a mixture of luck and opportunism as well.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it. There's a warmth and familiarity to it. The single mixes glam energy with old school soul. Was that a nod to the Christmas records that you grew up with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Slade and Wizard. It probably, they're probably the two ones that we did try and put some saxophone on it, like there is in the Wizard one, but it didn't actually need it. I really like it. I mean, it's I'm quite excited about it because I think it does sort of, even though I'm saying it myself, it has got that kind of classic Christmas record feel to it, but it's also, it's ours as well. It's different. I've got high hopes. I mean, I'm really, whatever, I like it anyway. Whatever happens, I like it.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like, one of the Christmas songs from the late 70s, early 80s. And I think that's why I really, really enjoy it as well.
Yeah, it just seemed like this was the right time to do it. And and I hope, I hope people like it for years to come. But it was enjoyable, it was enjoyable putting it together and just, working on the mix. We went down to a guy in Exeter and spent time down there working on the mix and that was, the whole kind of the process of it was really enjoyable. And there was a funny coincidence. There's a guy called Tony White in Exeter, and he's got his studio and he does mixing down there. I have a lot of synchronicity in my life. I have a lot of these incidents.
So do I.
You do too?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you mine. This one. I mean, I get really complicated ones, and I get kind of like simple ones. But
so I log mine every day.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, I'll just tell you this one, seeing as we started. But we're in the studio, and for some reason, I don't know why, but I said to him, "Do you know Vic Keary?" I did an album with him when I was in this group called the Acrylics, and we were the backing band for Desmond Dekker, and Vic Keary had a place called the Chalk Farm Studios. So we recorded there. He used to own the Trojan catalog, this Vic Keary. But what he also made was hardware for studios, like compressors. And for some reason, and I didn't know that he did compressors. I didn't know this, but for some reason, I just said to Tony, "Oh, have you heard of Vic Keary?" And he said, "Oh, funny you should say that." And then to sort of down at his feet to the right was a compressor that had been hand-built by Vic Keary. It was so early on that it didn't have a serial number because it was, one of the original ones. Yeah, it was called a Phoenix compressor. And he actually hadn't hooked it up yet, but it was just there at his feet. Now, I had no idea. And also, just as a little bit of a synchronistic thing, the last time I'd been in Exeter was to play at a club called the Phoenix. So that's a fairly simple synchronistic thing.
You released your solo album in 2002. What creative statement were you hoping to make on your own after everything that came before?
I was a little bit at sea, really. And if I'm truthful, I don't really know what I wanted to say. I didn't have the vision that I've got now for what I want to do and how I want to I'm very clear now about how I'm sort of presenting the thing that I'm doing. But back then, I think I was quite lost, really. So I couldn't be convincing either to myself or the record company. Things were happening. Quite a lot was happening at the time. I did this movie. I was in a film called The Island of the Mapmaker's Wife, and we shot that in Holland. So that was going on at the time, and there was a lot of sort of distraction. I wasn't in my body in a way. I wasn't kind of like locked in to myself, and I don't think I wasn't being authentic with myself, in my sort of greater life. And I think that, that came into it, really. I wasn't being totally honest with myself. I wasn't living honestly to myself. So I think really that album probably in some ways didn't deserve to do better because I wasn't really where I needed to be doing it. I think The songs actually aren't bad at all, but it needed something to bring it together. It needed coalescing, and it didn't have that. Yeah, it didn't have it. I didn't have the feeling that I have now about stuff.
You think that could have been to do with, in the Fine Young Cannibals, there was three of you to make decisions musically, but this time there was just yourself?
Yeah, partly that. It was a strange thing when the Cannibals split up, because we had a split deal with America and England. So when the FYC split, I was still attached to America, which was a legacy from when the Beat had a split deal. And I did sign the contract giving America the rest of the world. And I had my reservations, but I sort of overrode my instinct. I overrode it. And I did something, I signed the contract, which locked me in for the rest of the world. Whereas I sort of had a feeling that I should do it. I should sort of stay independent. And I didn't. So that was a great regret, actually, that I didn't sort of follow my gut. I just kind of did what I thought was the more normal thing. It was also, I was in a different sort of, when we first got signed to London originally, the music industry was kind of different, and music was in capital and business was in the small letters. But by the time the Cannibals split, and by the time I signed that contract, music was the smaller font and business was the larger part of it. So I just didn't do things the way I should have done them. And I think that I own that album, though. I mean, it was a licensing deal I did, so all those songs I still own, which is in the masters I own, which is good because I think quite a lot of the songs are really good. Yeah, could be of some value other than being played live and listened to.
You said that the hardest lesson is learning to make peace with the past. So what does peace look like for you now?
Well, it's a peace process. It's what I've learned, and especially this is something that Carl Jung will talk about, is that your unconscious is the governor. Your unconscious is conscious. It knows what's what. It's what you don't know about yourself that dictates what happens, not what you think you know about yourself. It's what you don't know. And it's like, in Jungian terms, they'll refer to it as your shadow. So it's sort of understanding. Yeah, that's what that helps you come to terms, I think, with the past and try and sort of get some kind of peace of mind, is understanding why you've done things, or I kind of like had a repetition of, there was a pattern that was happening for me that made me think, right, I've got to get a hold of this. This has happened on 3 occasions. I'll tell you what it is. It's just that every time that I've got really close to somebody, there would be a guy comes out of the shadows. There'd be a man that had kind of like been hidden. And every kind of serious relationship I'd been in, that had happened. And the last time it happened, I thought, shit, this keeps happening, so I've got to like get into this and find out, what's going on, because it's not very nice. So that has been, that's kind of, and that thing where they say, if you really take a dislike to somebody, very often it can be they've got traits that you actually have, but you see them in somebody else, and it's much easier to go, oh, that's the bad guy, than look at the bad guy in yourself. And if you can kind of scapegoat them, you don't have to change yourself, but you don't grow. Yeah, that's kind of what's informed, I think what's informed what I'm doing now is just that sort of being able to see yourself, see oneself, see myself.
So having revisited everything for FYC 40 and stepping back on the stage, the new Christmas single, does it feel like closure or the start of a new chapter?
Oh, it feels very much the start of a new chapter, actually. I really feel, I feel like there's a few things yet I want to do. And I feel like I'm in a position, I'm coming into that position now where I can do that. And I've got a vision that I didn't have before. Yeah, and I've got that I've been working on the vision. I've been working on for quite a while, but it sort of feels like it's beginning to bear fruit now. Yeah. So it feels like a new chapter. It feels like I feel like I've got a bit more to offer. I feel that the Cannibals in some ways died a premature death. If we'd have had Brian Clough as our manager, I think we would have done a lot better, guys that we did have.
When you step on stage now and see fans who've lived with these songs for decades, what does it feel like?
Oh, it feels really good. I mean, it makes me feel, well, we did do something good. We made something that was worthwhile. So, even though the split was sort of acrimonious and not very nice, we did do something good. So, I'm happy about that. And it's not been a bad legacy. It could have been more, but what we did do seems to have been important enough to have stayed around. So it's not always quantity that matters, although I'd like to do a little bit more.
For someone wanting to understand the music of the Fine Young Cannibals, your sound, your message, your journey, what 5 songs should they start with?
I'm Not the Man I Used to Be, first off. Johnny Come Home. As Hard as It Is. Funny How Love Is. I'm Not Satisfied. They're the 5 that sort of come to mind.
Good choices. And Roland, with the new single out, how do you plan to spend Christmas this year? Quietly or full on festive?
It depends who's around. I feel like doing something a little bit different this year. But usually it will be eating and drinking. There are certain things I like to do. Like I like to make sausage rolls for breakfast on Christmas Day. So I'll definitely be doing that. And very often it'll just involve who just happens to be around. I was talking to my mate Errol. He said he might come down for Christmas from Birmingham. It's always nice to have, a few new faces, familiar faces, but new, and I like it just because it's just, you can just kind of like, there's no kind of like, I don't have to worry about, we can just, you don't have to worry about doing, there's nothing to do. We can just kind of be for a bit.
And next year you've got more live dates. Can fans expect more music too?
Yeah, well, there will be May. We're doing there's a sort of a small tour booked in for May, and I do have a lot of songs that I've been playing live for quite a long time, and so I know that they're liked, but they haven't been recorded. So I think should things go well this year, then maybe I'll be in a position where I can do some recording next year, which would be nice just to have them, just to have them, whether I don't know, whether they are released or not. It would be just nice just to just done them. So, but ideally, ideally, they'd be released and everybody would want to buy them. That'd be the ideal.
Finally, Roland, music is the soundtrack to our memories. What song or album by another artist or band brings back the best memories for you?
There are certain times that a song will just get under my skin. And I can remember, actually it was a while ago since, I think that song, You Can Say What You Want by Texas, that I just couldn't stop playing that song. Yeah, I mean, it's, it's a great song, but sometimes they just sort of it's hard to explain, but that they've just kind of like got you for some reason. I remember once as well, years ago, just bursting out into tears when but David Bowie's Young Americans was playing, and it was just like, shit, why is that happening? Yeah, that was a long time ago. Sometimes a song will just sort of hit a nerve, press a button, touch an emotional string in you, and it just kind of like vibrates. I don't know why.
Well, Roland, it's been a real pleasure talking with you, and congratulations on FYC40. And everybody knows it's Christmas. The song still sounded fresh as ever, and the voice still cuts right through. So thank you very much for joining me in the XS Noize podcast.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed this.